parents can contribute to the onset of this disorder. Like there's some stuff there's some parenting habits or things we do unintentionally, maybe with good intentions, that unbeknownst to us are actually setting the stage. Well. Hello, everybody.
Hello. We're back.
We're back.
We're here.
We're here. Producer Chris in
We're
the
still
house.
here.
Welcome to another episode of our On Purpose Parents podcast. As always, Kurt Johnston, Grace Yoon, producer Chris.
Hello.
The dream team.
And a special guest who is not a stranger. Now, you'd have to be a pretty consistent listener to the podcast because several episodes ago, I'm going to say maybe 6 months worth of episodes ago, they're in the show notes.
Yes.
But we had Amy Kendall on as a guest when we talked to parents about some of the overarching thoughts and issues around mental health with our children.
Correct.
If you've not seen those or listened to those, it's worth your while. They sort of set the stage for what we're going to talk about in this 3-week episode. This month is Mental Health Month, Mental Health Awareness Month, or just Mental Health Month?
Mental Health Awareness Month.
Mental Health Awareness Month.
Yeah.
Worldwide, it's not just a church thing. It's a worldwide or nationwide? Nationwide. I don't know.
You know,
Who knows?
I believe it's worldwide.
Yeah, I mean,
Well,
we're
if
so
it's-
connected
If
now.
it's not, we're gonna
right? Make it
bump it up
international.
to
Because I mean,
world.
mental health isn't just the United States and things like that. So
Well, yeah,
no,
but-
it's
I'm sorry.
I think it's honored across all boundaries
Correct.
and borders.
Yeah.
So yes, international.
And we had Amy on last week as well to kind of introduce our series too. So we had her on episodes in the past. Listeners were introduced to her
Correct.
last week.
Yes,
You
thank
just
you.
can't get rid of me.
We can't get rid of her. We
love her.
We don't want to.
Yeah.
Well, Amy, welcome.
Welcome
for having me
back.
Thanks for being here. Good to have you. Okay.
So before we start though, Kurt,
Yeah.
you just took a sip of agua
Yes.
from a interesting contraption, a water bottle. Usually you have one of
Well,
these with
yeah.
me, a nice
I do.
warm mug of
I do.
coffee or tea.
Thank
What's
you.
going on today?
Well, funny. As you guys know, I came in a little bit earlier than usual.
Okay.
You guys are both so prompt. I'm always sprinting in, unprepared,
Frazzled.
frazzled.
You're a busy man.
No,
You're in demand.
I'm not. You guys, listeners, if you only knew what Grace Yoon, Grace Yoon is a power-packed leader. She helps run one of our major cities in Southern California. I'm a youth pastor.
All right, what's in that water? What's going on?
So anyway,
What? Where's the label on the water bottle? Why
Yeah,
isn't
what-
there-
don't worry about it.
Kurt has a certain level of energy this morning, huh?
Well,
is
so
it
to
coming-
answer your question, Grace,
Yes.
I came in, as you know,
Okay.
I poured a mug of what turned out to be extremely strong coffee. I don't even love coffee, but I wanted something hot. Most of the time in my mug, it's not necessarily coffee. It's Coke, it's water, it might be coffee. Whatever I drank, it like kicked in by the time we got in here. It
you're
kicked
so
in.
wired.
He's all bzzz.
Yeah, so I'm drinking the water to like dilute the dosage of caffeine.
That makes sense because you came in with like Kurt. If people don't know, Kurt always has amazing energy, like just vibrant and full of life. But this morning was even extra energy.
Yeah, it was
and
a
I was
little
like,
bit-
is it from that water?
It's a little bit. It was
but now
like,
it makes sense.
It was like Kurt squared. It was Kurt squared. So that's why I'm drinking. And
Gotcha.
the label, I think, in my I just tore the label. The label had to go.
Yeah,
I was
The energy had to
I
go
was
out
thinking
somehow.
it was a product placement thing, but I
If-
noticed
if
your hat
only.
says stray boards on it, so you're promoting something up there. What's
Stray,
that all about?
Well, stray boards is this
sponsoring?
little stray board. I mean, they're welcome to.
please,
don't have-
anyone.
Parenting
Anybody
podcast
would be
by
happy
Arrowhead.
to. Somebody. Here's what I would love to sponsor the podcast: a less strong coffee. Like gentlecoffee.com.
We'll get you the half calf
Especially for
next time.
Kurt.
A half calf.
Yeah,
Thank you.
we'll do
There
that
we
next
go.
time.
Or just a tea company.
But
A teacup.
You
Anyway,
know what? I appreciate the energy you're bringing because today's topic and this topic of this entire series deserves this level of energy.
And thank you.
And
Before we
attention.
jump into that, I do have to answer Chris's question since you asked it, because I'm sure one listener cares that you asked about stray boards.
Yes.
It's a private owned, like, used board company in San Clemente.
Oh.
So it's like not a thrift store, but like a consignment store for surfboards.
Interesting.
Yeah, and surfboards are so expensive that to
We've
be able to
used it
have
many
you
times.
walk in there's like 300 used surfboards
Wow.
for way less than a new surfboard. They'll buy your board from you.
Oh, that's smart.
Stray, like, stray, nobody wanted me kind of board.
Oh, gotcha. That makes
That's
sense.
very cool.
Like a stray cat.
Our surfer parents will have to check it out.
Yes.
And let us know if you
Yes.
found a good
Okay.
deal.
They don't call you the aquatic maverick for nothing.
Oh, wow.
Also that.
Aquatic
I don't even know.
Maverick.
I
Kurt squared to aquatic
don't
Maverick.
know
You know
what
what? I
that
want to call you that from
The,
now
the
on.
tidal
That sounds cool.
titan. He is a tidal titan.
Wow. Producer Chris, are you coming up with these on the fly? I'm impressed.
Speaking of aquatic mavericks,
Yes.
in just a couple weeks, I'm going on my annual. Well, it's the second time.
Surf trip.
My new surf trip out to
Sweet.
down to Mazatlan with my buddies.
That's going to be so
It's
fun.
gonna be awesome.
You can tell them your newly
No,
minted title
I
down
will
there.
not.
you get laughed out.
Yes,
I am the
will
title
I will
titan.
never be invited back if I wear a hat that says
AQ.
I am
Aquatic
the aquatic
What's
maverick.
AQ stand
no,
for?
not AQAM.
Title titan.
Aquatic Maverick.
Okay.
What is
We're
happening,
losing
guys? Guys. Here's what I don't understand, and then we're gonna be done. We're gonna move on. Amy, thank you for your patience.
No worries.
Here's the part I don't understand. I feel equally responsible for always setting us off in the wrong direction and being the one that brings us back.
Oh,
Like,
see?
I
As
feel
long as you bring
like
us back.
If I don't bring us back, this ridiculousness of nonsense that nobody.
We'll just go on forever.
Nobody
And Amy will sit here.
cares.
All right, bring
And
us back.
and
Bring
real
us back.
quick, I think people listening think, here's the thing. They act like it's spontaneous, but it's really planned out. They know they're going to waste 13 minutes of my precious time. Why don't they just quit doing it? And we say, let's quit doing it.
Yeah.
And then we just never quit doing it.
Because we like each other too much.
think-
we don't see each other
think
all that
that's-
often
they're in
outside the
car
podcast.
totally giggling at it. I mean, come on.
No,
They're giggling.
anyway.
We're 7 minutes
Alrighty.
in right now.
All right, let's go.
That's 5.5
Bring us back, title
minutes too
Titan.
many. Okay,
And
Title Titan.
What are
Amy-
we talking
Amy
about
Kendall,
today?
welcome back.
Thanks for having me.
Last week, now I can't remember what we've talked about in the 7 minutes and what we haven't. Last week in episode 1, did I already mention this?
No.
That we did
Yeah.
like the 5 most common. They're not necessarily the most common. They're just in in Amy's experience, the 5 most common.
Yeah.
And kind of just a brief overarching little bit about those 5. We thought for these next 2, we would dive deeper into one per episode, much less common, but to some degree maybe on the rise in the number of diagnoses that are happening. How often it's being diagnosed in children. And for those of you who would be tempted once you hear what like each one is to go, okay, my child isn't that, to just unplug. Please don't, because again, I'm no expert. I learned most of what I know from Amy and others. But I think with both of these, just because your child doesn't have it now doesn't mean they could never develop some of these disorders or
Or have friends.
or
that
have
them.
friends. That's the thing.
Hear about it on social
That's-
media,
Yep. You want to
have
listen to
questions
this.
about it.
Yep. So you can pass this along to parents
Absolutely.
as a resource, and then warn them about the first 7.5 minutes.
Yep. As always.
So with that said, Amy, today we're going to take a look at and spend a little bit of time speaking about a disorder that is titled Body Dysmorphic Disorder. Body Dysmorphic Disorder, also known as BDD or body dysmorphia.
Correct.
Right? So I know very little about it. A lot of parents maybe have heard bits and pieces. There could be some parents listening to go, I've never even heard that phrase. What is body dysmorphic disorder? How do I recognize it? What are some things to think about it? How do I help my kids through it? We're going to talk about all of that together. But to kick us off, Amy, what is it?
Yeah. So body dysmorphic disorder is something that definitely you see on the rise. And a lot of it is attributed to social media in a lot of ways, and what we put out there as a society of what the perfect body looks like, what how we should appear, how we should act, everything. And so, and we know so often things are airbrushed and they're not how how they present. But for our students and our kids, they don't always know that, and they don't always able to see past that. And so, what it is we'll have both boys and girls, men and women. It's equally on both sides. We'll have something that they get obsessive about, and so it's not just like, oh my gosh, my hair looks really crummy today, and I'll say to my friend, like, do you notice my hair looks crummy? It is something where they constantly will check themselves in the mirror. They will talk to their friends. Oh my gosh, does my hair look okay? And it could be your hair. It could be, like you talked about, it could be your ears. It could be weight. Weight tends to be one of the bigger ones. It could be, and it could be whether they think they're too skinny or even too fat, as much as we would typically think it would be too fat. It's sometimes. It's that they can see a pimple, and the pimple is so obsessive that they constantly are checking it, doing something, and then it can go to the extremes where I'm sure a lot of you know people, especially in media and celebrities, who get a lot of plastic surgery, and so they are so obsessed with that one thing. And
Producer Chris, we're looking at you.
but it's one of those things where, if I had body dysmorphic disorder and I may see that flaw that's so obtrusive to me, you wouldn't see it. It's something that's more in my own mind and my own,
I wouldn't even notice the pimple, there isn't a pimple.
Usually there's something. I
Gotcha.
mean, but like I said, it
It's
could
so
be that
minute.
they think their ears look horrible.
Right.
Everyone else is like, what are you talking about?
Yeah,
Their
yeah.
ears
Normal
are fine.
ears.
Right.
Yeah.
And is it typically, so let's just use the ears as an example. It's the ears today, but then tomorrow there's a pimple, and it could be different, or is it for different people? It tends to be the same
thing?
obsession continuously.
So usually what'll happen is they'll get stuck on one thing, and it doesn't mean that they can't have multiple things, but usually, like I said, weight is a very large one, and so weight doesn't just change, and your ears don't all of a sudden, stop sticking out or whatever it is, or that pimple can go away. That's the one thing. Pimples are a little easier because they go away, but like nose jobs, people just can't stand their nose, and their nose is always going to be the same, so they're kind of stuck on that. So it really depends what the obsession is, versus is it an obsession that does change in our body, or some things that are there always.
So also, I mean, this topic is so fascinating in the sense that body image, some of the things that you've mentioned, are something I think everyone can relate to.
Right.
All of us in this room can relate to. So can you help us understand what exactly is the difference between, as you grow up, you're self-conscious, you're going through puberty, you may not like how you look. I mean, and it might even become like a super strong insecurity that's with you for many, many, many years. How do we, because this word body dysmorphic disorder, and it's labeled as a disorder, seems so big. What's the difference for our parents to understand between just being insecure about how you look, especially during your teenage years, versus having this disorder at that level?
And Grace, even when we talk about teenagers, it's even children. I mean, it really is younger children just as much can have that obsession. I'd love to say it, it starts at teens, but it's even we're seeing this disorder even in younger children. It really has to do with the obsessive thought. It's an obsessive, obtrusive thought that can't go away. Where for a lot of our students, if we're going to talk in that population, our children, they may feel insecure that day, and they may think that something doesn't look right, but usually they're able to go past that and keep continuing on, and they may come back and be like, especially again talking about weight to me is a typical one, and it's ones I understand. Like, we can get to a point where like, this is how God created me, this is my body, and so we're able to kind of rationalize with them and get them to the point where they realize this is how they are. If it's truly body dysmorphic disorder, it's an obtrusive thought that they can't move from. And for a lot of them, it takes therapy. It takes psychotherapy, talk therapy to get through it. And it takes work. It's not just something where we start learning, okay, I'm good with my body, but this is a disorder where it's so obsessive that they're not able to move from it.
I see. So it's like the level of
Degree,
consistency and intensity and the ability to rationalize some sense of balance of thought, even if, as an insecure teenager, you might keep going back to something, it's still balanced with, okay, well, I can understand that I'm having a bad day, a bad hair day, but like BDD would be like just you can't get past it.
And also, it does where for people who truly have this disorder, they sometimes don't want to leave their house. So it takes away from their everyday living where they're like, I'm not going to school. I look this way. I don't, and so where, like I said, we all have insecurities. I mean, the reality is we've all been created to have insecurities, or that's how we are, unfortunately. There's things that we're insecure about. This is where it doesn't even allow them to have a typical functioning of their life sometimes. They will cancel on going maybe to a birthday party or hanging out with friends because they think, oh, that one person's going to see me and they're going to see that thing. They will be the ones who wear the big hoodies and cover up, and so they don't want to be seen. So they really work on people not seeing them.
Gotcha.
So they tend to pull back, and so it affects their social lives. It affects their mental, of course, and their physical, and so it can affect across all boundaries. Where typical insecurities don't do that.
And Amy, is it fair to say, or is there a degree of accuracy in the statement that parents can contribute to the onset of this disorder? Like there's some stuff there's some parenting habits or things we do unintentionally, maybe with good intentions, that unbeknownst to us are actually setting the stage for this disorder to show up. And once there is, or maybe what's the counterpart is, there are some positive things that we can do that would limit the opportunity or that would minimize the odds of this showing up. This is one kind of big question. And once we really see some of the telltale signs, like, okay, this isn't normal. This is beyond what we would think is normal. It's entering the obsessive stage. What are some things we can do as parents proactively to build positive, to reinforce the positive, to help kids be less fixated? I know that's one big question, but maybe you can.
No, that's great. Of course, we always don't want to blame the parents, but can we have parents, I can speak from my own experience, and I know that, I was around a family who was very conscious about weight. And so it was something we dealt with a lot. And not so much, we definitely grew and went to therapy and stuff, but weight was a huge issue in my family. And so for a lot of these individuals, they may have a parent who's very obsessive about looks. I think you can look at like pageant moms, and that's very much an extreme. And there are very healthy people in the pageant world, but there are pageant parents who, are very obsessive about what their child looks like, how they present. Also, kids who are possibly in the acting world, and so looks can be something that, as parents, we can instill into our kid that they have to look a certain way, act a certain way, especially look, of course. And so can it cause obsessive thoughts to happen? Yes. Right. Just like an anxious parent can create an anxious child,
Gotcha.
We can do the same thing in this area.
Yeah, that makes sense. So what can we do proactively and positively to so let's say I'm a parent who I'm aware that this is a tendency, and maybe I'm aware that social media, right, that their exposure to, maybe I'm a parent who doesn't identify with, I don't have this disorder, I'm not obsessed with A, B, C, or D. I just want to make sure that other influences aren't pouring that in. Like, is it just a matter of my voice of, God made you the way you are, you're wonderful, God doesn't make mistakes, hey, curly hair is just as awesome as straight hair, so don't worry about, is it just a matter of like, I want to make sure my positive reinforcement is louder than all the negative? How do I in essence protect my child from developing these tendencies and this disorder?
That's a great question. I think sometimes instead of saying like curly hair is just as great as straight hair, just say I love your curly hair. And so I think sometimes when we present it as it's better than this,
right?
But I think and talking about just loving someone's shape. It doesn't have to be, I think that the biggest thing is you'll see parents who say, wow, you've lost weight, you look so great. So for them, they're like, wait, did I not look great before?
Right.
Oh, interesting.
And so just not being aware of that, not saying something like, wow, your face kind of broke out, but it looks better now. Well, did it look better before? But just, so really, I think we don't need to be so inundated about how our children look. I mean, it's great that we can love all shapes and sizes.
Yeah.
I think when you see a woman and you can say, wow, that woman is so beautiful, and she could weigh 220 pounds.
Yeah.
And you can, my nieces were so great. They always found something when they met somebody to say something they loved about them. Wow, you have the greatest shoes. And so it's not having to comment on people's outward, but inward. And so
Gotcha.
really encouraging kids to have, other sports or, activities or things they can do. But again, not speaking straightly into
Right.
their appearances. And I think as a parents, we, like even something where we say, you're really going to wear that outfit? And the reality is,
Who cares?
let them wear that outfit, unless of course it's something really skimpy or something, inappropriate. They're not going to, there's a time, but
Producer Chris again.
no
I'm
skimpy.
looking at you.
The skimpy outfit.
But I mean, that's the thing. I think as parents, when we just really allow our child to be who they are,
Right.
and we don't have to comment on it and do this vice versa, like it's this versus this, and just being like,
Yep.
gosh,
Yeah.
I love you just how you are.
Right.
That's such. There is a distinction that you made to Kurt's question that was so good, and Kurt and I reacted to it. So I just want to just say again that I thought was so great was you're just affirming that child how they are versus somehow bringing that encouragement or compliment as a comparison. And that distinction, I think I'm just saying it again so I could build it into myself too, because as parents, we may not notice these subtle things where wow, Kurt, you look so much better today. Whatever. And it could be like we mean it as a compliment, but somehow they're still instilling a little bit of, oh, wait, did I not look good before? There's
Right.
that comparison either to how you were before or how you are to somebody else. And moving away from that in small areas, I thought that's super,
It just puts a little bit of
helpful.
doubt, because it just puts doubt in our kids.
Yeah.
When we say, your hair looks so great today, then they think, well, was it not yesterday? And so you can add doubt just versus like, wow, your hair's great.
Yeah, exactly.
Take today out,
And that's such a helpful advice. And that, encouragement that you've given us, I think can apply to parents with children with BDD, but also just children in general. I mean, that's just a really good kind of mindset and encouragement. And so, but one question following that up is, so creating that safe space, encouraging the child for who they are, that can really be just applicable to all parents to promote positive and healthy body image. But specifically for parents who are, struggling with BDD with their children as a diagnosis, what kind of professional help or treatment exists out there other than creating that helpful environment in the home in the way that parents would be creating that safe space and treating or talking? What are there other ways that support or treatments or support that parents might be able to look into?
So therapy is really important for someone who truly has a diagnosis of body dysmorphic disorder. Like you said, just saying, God created you this way and you're perfect and you're God's masterpiece is not going to get them from point A to point B. And so some of them really do need mental health therapy. And so looking into resources, Saddleback, as we always say, Saddleback has a great list of therapists if you're interested in our area that we could say, we recommend. We also, I really recommend, there's Body Dysmorphic Disorder, I think it's .org. And so they have a great, I think it's just bdd.org, I believe. We have that resource. And they have a great website that gives tips and techniques. And they even have, conferences. And so they have a wealth of resources out there. There's some great authors out there. We have a resource list that we even have of some great books that we recommend. And so there's some great books out there on body dysmorphic disorder just to read on it. Because I think as parents, sometimes we can put it into like, oh, this is just adolescence. Oh, this is just my teenager being concerned about how they look. But when it goes all the way to truly being this disorder and this diagnosis, then we need to look at some seriousness, because it can lead to, again, like you said, wanting a nose job at 16, or it can lead, we talked about this a little bit before we started shooting, it can lead into an eating disorder unit. And so we can have some comorbidity where they have BDD, but then it brings on anorexia, or bulimia. And so it can lead to those things. And so looking at it and seeing it, the tendency, If it's something you're, as a parent, you're seeing it obsessively happening all the time, then we need to get a look at it. If it's something that comes and goes, yeah, it's just normal, adolescence.
So as we, as we round the corner and head home on this, if a parent listening says, man, I feel like my child is on the obsessive side, I don't think we would be a proponent of just automatically self-diagnosing. Where is step one? Because you've said diagnosis. Once you have a diagnosis, therapy is important. Like what's step one for a parent sort of authoritatively getting some professional input into, is this typical? It may be even on the more extreme side of typical versus no, this is a diagnosis that you need to now navigate with your child.
I think, granted, and that was a good thing, and maybe I misspoke in the sense that talk therapy is important, and your therapist, whether it be an MFT or a psychologist or a psychiatrist, can give you that diagnosis.
Thank you.
A doctor could give it to you as well. So
Gotcha.
your pediatrician, your doctor could give you that diagnosis as
Okay.
well. But it could be something where you're having those concerns and you think, gosh, I think I need to look into having therapy for my child.
Gotcha.
Like I said, if your child is starting to become more introverted and shy away from people and want to do things by themselves because those thoughts are, contributing to their lifestyle, and like I said, they don't want to go to school, they don't want to go to work,
Gotcha.
they don't want to hang out with friends, then that's something we
Yep.
need to definitely look at.
Yeah.
Awesome.
That's a
Wow.
great question. Yeah. And one thing I'll just add is I think one of the takeaways that I'm getting from this is we don't want to scare parents, and it's not about panicking. Oh my goodness, I think my child is obsessive about something. But I think what we want to leave parents with is one, the encouragement to be observant of your child and not panic, but just be aware, like no need to overreact right away to something if it's just like a bad week or even a bad month, but to pay attention. And then if you do as a parent feel like this might be something that your child is leaning towards or maybe has, that there are steps and resources and there is assistance and help out there. You don't have to navigate this alone or feel ashamed about it or worry obsessively about it yourself, which is so hard to do as a parent. We just worry about our kids is the most natural thing. But just to know that there's support, there's steps you can take, there's so much resource out there, and that you can take that first next step, whatever that might be.
Fantastic. Well, everybody, Amy, thank you so much for joining us again. We look forward to seeing you next episode. We have one more episode of this
Yay.
series. It's going to be amazing. Parents, as always, if you want to be on our text list, you can text the word parents to 83,000. If you go to onpurposeparents.com, all of our resources are there. And there is a mental health tab somewhere, button on that website. You can access, we've got quite a bit
lot of resources, yes.
Kind of like our 2-minute tips.
Yes.
They're not quite as short and precise always as the 2-minute tips, but Amy and others have put together how many videos? How
About
many?
20.
20.
About
We have quite a few.
About 20.
You as well. You've done
Well,
some.
I have done some. Thank you. That's what I said, Amy and others.
Amy and others,
I'm in the
including
others
myself.
category. On the mental health tab, videos that kind of touch on all of these topics around mental health and our children. Like, comment, subscribe, share this little YouTube channel. Listen to us wherever you listen to podcasts, and we will see you next episode.
Bye, everybody.